Good morning, everybody. We've got a mixed trade in the grain markets here early on Thursday morning. It is 6:30 a.m. Central Time. March corn futures down 4.25 at 601 1/4. March soybeans down 14 1/4 at 13.54 3/4. March Chicago wheat down 1/4 cent at 7.87 1/2. March Kansas City wheat is up 1/4 cent at 8.24 3/4. March spring wheat down 1 1/4 at 10.07 3/4. If you guys are listening on the podcast, leave me a rating or a review. If you are watching on YouTube, I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave me a comment, help me to grow this channel. My goal is to push the YouTube subscriptions to 5,000. We're at about 3,400. I think we can certainly do it. If you need some additional assistance from me, go to my website. It is www.standardgrain.com. Go to that website, click on Grain Marketing Plan here in the upper right-hand corner. Check out my subscription service, guys, $49.99 a month. A ton of information that comes out directly from me every business day. You'll get my morning email, which goes out at about 6:20 a.m. Central. It's right before I start these live streams. In that email, you'll see every overnight headline. All of my subscriber-only videos are included there, all of my grain marketing recommendations. I did a video for my subscribers yesterday. We ran a poll this week regarding farmer ownership of the 2021 corn crop. I was trying to answer the question, how much of this 2021 corn crop has been sold, how much of it has not been sold. I got a ton of responses from farmers all over the country, presented the poll results in yesterday's video. So if you're interested in stuff like that, guys, it's just one of the many topics that I cover. I do everything from, stuff like this to more grain marketing specific stuff, how to capture carry, option strategies. I talk about different things like, the Fed, inflation, all sorts of different items. So if you are interested in that, certainly check out that subscription deal. Soybean harvest in Brazil is underway, and it is early. In Mato Grosso, they started harvesting beans last week largely, and there was probably a little bit before that. But Reuters is reporting that harvest began about 20 days earlier than it did last year. One farm group estimating that most of Mato Grosso will be harvested by February 20th, and Mato Grosso is the largest soybean producing state in Brazil. Early yield reports generally very good. They certainly have some variability. Mato Grosso and other areas of central and northern Brazil have fared very well in terms of rainfall, good weather. Areas of southern Brazil, however, that I've discussed at length recently have been problematic. They've been much drier in comparison. Now, when you look at the production density map of Brazil. Here's Mato Grosso. If you're watching on YouTube in the north, this is where they're harvesting beans now. Down here in the south is where it's dry. They're not near harvest yet, and this is where your problem area is down here. So they're spread out pretty far from north to south in Brazil, and that's why you can have these really big variations in the timing of harvest, weather, all that sort of stuff. Just a little bit different setup, of course, than what we have here in the United States. Now, some of these South American problem areas will see some rain. Beginning around January 4th. That's when some of these rains here in Paraguay, South Brazil, and Argentina will return. Paraguay looks like a mixed bag. This kind of like western, northwestern half is going to do all right, but then this kind of southeastern area, not so much. South Brazil is going to do okay, barring this far say southwestern corner. And then Argentina is really doesn't look that great. Most of the rain in Argentina is going to be west of the real big soybean areas, which are kind of down in this area. Some pockets will see rain in Argentina, but I think you've still got an issue there. And some traders are reading this forecast as being a bearish item here this week, largely because the market has corrected. But I think there's still some problems here. I think you could still see Argentina production estimates in particular fall just a little bit further. And these weather forecasts, of course, are constantly changing. U.S. ethanol production rose marginally last week, 1.059 million barrels per day. That was up almost a percentage point on the week. It was up 13% versus the same week last year and down almost 1% versus the same week in 2019. Ethanol stocks declined marginally. This ethanol stock situation is interesting. We're still at the lowest levels seasonally in U.S. ethanol stocks of the last 5 years, which implies to us that we're using the ethanol that is being produced, which is fantastic. There's still some people who have questions regarding those stocks numbers, though. Why are they so low? Production margins for the U.S. ethanol producer are very good, but they have eased from the highs that we saw back in, say, late November, early December. I think the ethanol producer largely in the United States is able to clear 80 or 90 cents per gallon. That number had been $1.25 or better per gallon, say, a month ago. So we've eased a little bit, but still very, very good. President Biden will speak directly with Vladimir Putin of Russia today. The talks will revolve around, well, it depends on which side you look at, but Russia says that the talks will revolve around increased security in Eastern Europe. They claim that they are concerned that NATO will expand their presence closer to the Russian border, or perhaps that NATO would place missile systems in neighboring countries. Russia wants a ban on Ukrainian involvement in NATO. They have said that ignoring those demands would result in a military response similar to the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. The White House is much more concerned about the military buildup of Russian troops and artillery near the Ukraine border. White House spokesperson said we're in a moment of crisis in regard to that situation. A spokesperson said it will take a high level of engagement to address this and find a path of de-escalation. This is, of course, of concern to us because USDA projects that Russia and Ukraine will be the world's number 1 and number 2 wheat exporters this year. Ukraine is also a big corn exporter. I don't think you're going to see any disruption there, but if you do, it could be a big deal for the markets because that's a lot of global grain exports there. The S&P 500 posted its 70th record high close yesterday. We have posted 70 record high closes in 2021. That falls only behind 1995 when we had 77 record high closes. Those are daily closes. So the S&P is now up almost 28% year to date. It was up 18.4% last year. It was up 31.5% in 2019. The last losing year for the S&P was 2018 when we lost only 4.5%. So the market's been incredibly strong. Holiday sales on the retail front were generally pretty good. The market is also, I think, encouraged by new CDC guidance, which suggests a COVID quarantine period reduced from 10 days down to 5 days. So that's a positive for economic activity, perhaps. We will have an export sales report this morning. Corn sales expected 500 to 1 million for the current marketing year. Soybean sales expected 700 to 1.2. Wheat sales expected 200 to 500. Cattle market had a really nice day yesterday, up more than $1 in most of these fat cattle contracts, even better gains in the feeder cattle market. USDA reported some cash cattle in Nebraska and the Western Corn Belt, 140 to 141. Boxes were about $1 higher yesterday. In the outside markets, the U.S. dollar is up just a little bit. The S&P's up 9 points. The Dow's up 50. Bonds up a few ticks. Gold and silver just a little bit lower. Crude oil is down 40 cents in the March WTI at 75.78. Have a great day, guys. I will talk to you tomorrow morning.